Hi everyone, welcome back to Build by Emma and the first episode of Mental Health Mondays. So before we get started on Mental Health Mondays, I just want to stress I'm not a psychologist. None of what we're going to be discussing is any sort of type of diagnosis. I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert. The purpose for this sort of content is for awareness and educational purposes only. As I said before, there is going to be a trigger warning. We might be discussing things that are going to be sensitive and may cause people distress. So if that is going to distress you, I am going to leave some links below to anyone who needs a bit more support, or if it is going to distress you, maybe don't watch this video. But as I say, this is only going to be for educational and awareness purposes only. So the first episode of Mental Health Awareness Monday is going to be about OCD. And I think this is a sort of topic that does need to be discussed. There needs to be a lot of more awareness around this sort of mental health condition, and there's a lot of stereotypes along this mental health condition as well. So let's get started. So I'm going to start first with what is OCD. So OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's a mental health condition where someone can experience obsessions, compulsions, or usually both. The obsession sort of bit is our unwanted and intrusive thoughts, images or urges that keep coming into your mind that can cause a lot of anxiety or distress. And compulsions are things that you feel that you are driven to physically or mentally, and this is done to try and reduce anxiety or prevent something bad that they think might happen. And this creates a cycle. Sort of, you have an obsession, it causes distress and anxiety, and you think that you need to be driven to perform a compulsion, and it creates some sort of temporary relief, and that is why the cycle continues, because a person with OCD can think that that causes them a bit of relief, so then they'll continue to do that. The biggest thing that I want to clear up straight away about OCD is that it's not just liking to clean things or make things organised. And this is something that really gets to me, because I know someone very personal with OCD, and when I hear these things I find it quite offensive, because I know what that specific individual goes through on a day-to-day basis and how hard that can be, which is no one's fault. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to sort of raise awareness and sort of inform people about this specific disorder. So what OCD can look like. OCD can present very differently from person to person. So the contamination sort of side is the sort of fear of germs, illnesses, or any sort of contamination. Checking things such as doors, appliances, messages, mistakes, memories. So like, someone could go and lock a door, leave, think that they haven't locked a door, or need some extra reassurance that they need to lock a door, so they'll go back and check, then they'll leave, they'll get the same thought, and that can last for hours sometimes. Same with memories, like you think about something, you think that that's not correct, so then you need to replay that memory, or you need some reassurance from someone that that memory is correct. It's a constant cycle. There's also the harm OCD, about your intrusive fears and thoughts, thoughts about causing harm. Symmetry and having a just right driver, feeling that something isn't right and you've got to repeat the action until you feel that is right. There is also religious and moral obsessions, which is an intense fear about doing something morally wrong. Compulsions aren't always visible, so someone with OCD might have mental checking, counting. So sometimes people with OCD count a specific number, and they can look for a specific number, or they can tap things at that specific number of times. Repeating phrases, reviewing memories like I've just been talking about, and reassurance seeking. And reassurance seeking is a big one, and I'm going to get to that a bit more soon. Avoidance can be a big part of OCD because of all of that sort of information that I've shared. It can make someone with OCD feel very isolated, very alone, feel like they're being judged, because they are aware that sometimes it can be to other people an exaggeration, but they cannot help it. And I just want to stress, everyone can have an intrusive thought. If you have an intrusive thought, that doesn't mean you've got OCD whatsoever. Intrusive thoughts don't mean that you want anything to happen. The difference is that with OCD, it can cause them catastrophic distress where they feel like they need to do something about that. Someone with OCD, it can affect their life really bad. It's incredibly time consuming, it's very tedious, it can take hours off someone's day. As I said, they know might seem excessive, but it's still an overwhelming feeling for them to complete that compulsion. It can affect their work life, their education life, relationships, social life, and just everyday routines. People may avoid certain locations, certain people, certain objects, certain situations that can trigger anything like that. And as I was saying, reassurance seeking, someone with OCD can ask someone for hours on end whether something is okay, whether they've done something wrong, or whether something bad's going to happen. And other people can find that annoying sometimes, and that's okay, because everyone is entitled to feel how they have to feel. But with someone with OCD, again, they cannot help it. It's causing them a lot of anxiety, and that's why they feel they are needing to constantly ask all the time if things are okay, because in their head they are constantly asking themselves, regardless whether someone is saying it is okay, they're constantly asking what if this happens, what if that happens, and that's why they find it incredibly difficult. So this is why I say, when sometimes there's a stereotype when everyone says, oh, I'm so OCD, that needs to be there, that it's so harmful to other people as well, because we're not just talking about keeping things tidy and clean, we're talking about things that significantly interfere with someone's life. Another question that I always sort of see people ask sort of on social media, or just general questions, is how does it happen? How does it start? And there isn't one single cause, and I'm not going to go through sort of every single factor, because I want this just to be an informal chat, and as I say, we're raising awareness, educating people, because it's not a psychology lesson. I don't want anyone to think that this is sort of a teaching time, because it's not. I'm just going to go through, it can be biological, psychological, and environmental as well, how it can all start. The treatment can be sort of CBT, so cognitive behavioural therapy, exposure response therapy, which is gradually facing fears without carrying out a compulsion. Obviously that is very, very gradual. And medication can also be used as well, but it's only prescribed by a medical professional. and treatment looks different for every single person. And I'm not going to go through treatment a lot because, as I say, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not going to sort of go on as if I'm an expert about that, because I'm not. Obviously do know like the sort of facts about the treatments and stuff because I've done my psychology degree, so I do know a lot about it, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert about it because I'm absolutely not. So the takeaways I want to sort of give you before we end this episode is OCD is much more than being clean, tidy and organised. It can be genuinely distressing for someone with OCD and for loved ones around as well, because it's very, very difficult to just do something that'll take that anxiety and distress away from them. So maybe before you see or sort of hear anyone say I'm so OCD, remember that OCD for someone else can be something that they really struggle with in day-to-day life, and someone could be struggling with it and carrying out these compulsions without you even realising it. So yeah, that is the first episode of Mental Health Mondays. And as I say, it's open conversations about disorders that sometimes are often misunderstood, because there's not enough awareness or sort of education around that, and that's no one's fault. As I said, I'm not a psychologist and this isn't everything about OCD, but the main key things are there which I think we should raise awareness over. If there's anything else that you think is key about OCD, because obviously I've just picked some pieces out, just put it in the comments so we can continue to make awareness for everybody else. And if you have found sort of anything like this distressing, I will put some things in the sort of caption and comments about sort of support that you can get. And if you have any guesses what is next about Mental Health Monday is going to be about, pop it in the comments. I would love to see what your thoughts are. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you've all enjoyed the first episode of Mental Health Monday, and I'll see you in the next one.